Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those you who are new here, I am Hendrika. Welcome. For those who are returning for another episode, welcome you to this new adventure. Today I'm going to be talking about a new topic that I've not touched upon, that is miniature dendrobium. So I enjoy dendrobiums, the miniature ones, is because they're small, they're cute, and they are pretty much a prolific bloomer. That's what we want, right? When we grow orchids, we want flowers, not so much the plant. So today I'm going to be talking about a hybrid that is an Australian native, and yeah, let's get right to it. So what we have here is Dendrobium Fantasy Land, and we have two varieties. This is variety Princess and this is variety Sweetie. I'll talk to you more about them in a bit, but let's look at the plants overall. Okay, this one, unfortunately, I burnt it on the way home. Yes, this plant is quite burnt. Oops. They flower really small. I bought this plant about a year ago and it's doing really well. It has got 1 spike, 2 spike, 3 spikes on 2 active growing shoots. Basically, the background of this plant is Dendrobium bigibbum crossed with Dendrobium caniculatum. So both are Australian native dendrobium, and let's get into their morphology. So basically for dendrobium, they are what we call sympodial because their growth is at the sideways, meaning that they grow one shoot here and then they throw out another one above. So their growth habit is called sympodial. This one also is what we call a miniature dendrobium because they flower pretty small. I think this one's about under 15 centimeters, and as you can see, they flower profusely. This plant here has got 2 active canes, active growing canes, and this one has produced 2 inflorescence, and whereas this one over here has produced 1. So this one, like I said, I have had this for about a year. And let me take the tag off. Dendrobium Fantasy Land Princess. What else can I say more about this plant? Well, as you can see from this one, this one has got a longer inflorescence, higher flower count. Don't know about this too, but whereas for this one, well, I just bought this at a show because I wanted to do some comparison. And yeah, I like miniature dendrobiums is because, as you can see, they flower really profusely. They have been awarded. I'll put down the awards here, and I really enjoy it, and I would love to do more with this over time. So let's talk genetics over here of the background of this hybrid. Basically, this is, as I said, Dendrobium bigibbum hybridized with Dendrobium caniculatum as their ancestor plants. So to get Dendrobium Fantasy Land, you need to, basically it's a cross between Dendrobium cherry dance and Dendrobium bigibbum. Now, this is from orchid roots. You can see from orchid roots all the parentage and the percentage. So with that, okay, that's why you can see it is a very high percentage of Dendrobium bigibbum, and that's why it is very, very round, or what we call the Falinanti shape. Whereas with Dendrobium caniculatum, it's only 12.5%. Okay, it is not a very strong percentage, and therefore you get very little of this what we call the antelope kind. So it is not really an intermediate. So right now we're going to do a little bit of sibling comparison of the 2 varieties. So this one, like I said, is variety Princess. As you can see from this, the flowers, the color is a little bit more pale, though the flower shape is a little bit more stretched out. Okay, if I turn this around, as you can see over here, the flowers are of a concave and on the same plane. Whereas when you compare this to the variety Sweetie over here, let's look at this plant and we put it side by side. Like I said, it's a new plant that I've just got about 2 weeks ago from the show. Right now you can see the difference that the Sweetie, the color is a little more intensive. Okay, it's a little bit darker. Well, However, when even seeing it from this angle, you can tell that the petals, okay, all the petals and sepals are pretty much curled back quite a lot as compared to the princess over here. Okay, everything is nice, stretched out and concave. So let me turn this plant around. Okay, I'm going to turn these two around. So you can see from the two plants here, even though they're not like super on the same plane. So as you can see over here on the side view, that whereas for the princess, okay, over here it is nice concave and on the same plane, whereas this one, the sweetie, has got more reflexed petal segments. In the judging criteria, when the flower is more reflexed, it is not a fault, it's not a fatal flaw, it's just that you lose points. That's not so much of what we want. Like I said, when it comes to judging, there is a handbook that we need to study and adhere to, and of course, so when we judge, we need to follow that guideline. So therefore, okay, basically with judging is always about shape and color. So here we're looking at shape here. This is not a desirable shape characteristics. However, this one is. Okay, meaning that the reflexing is not desirable, but whereas we got it on the same plane, it is desirable. What am I going to be looking at is the color. As you can see with this princess, okay, the color is not as dark. There is a little bit more like pale segments inside here, and it's also like, you know, the pink is not as intensive as with the variety sweetie. These both varieties have their good points and their negative points. What I hope to do is actually I'm going to hybridize these two together. Yes, a lot of people like not very keen to do hybrid sibling crosses because maybe you get strange genetic variations and faults that comes out. But you know, you never know. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to give it a try. Hey, you never risk, never try, you never know. So yeah, I'm going to hybridize these two together and see what comes out. That was so much for, you know, flowering characteristics and judging and stuff like that. Let's talk about growing these miniature dendrobiums here in Brisbane, and also I think it'll do very well in Singapore because Dendrobium bigibbum does well in Singapore, which is a tropical environment, and here in Brisbane it is subtropical. So what I do, okay, this is my mix. Okay, yes, my mix. I put my mix into the orchid as well. So this one has got my mix in there. So if you want to know my mix, it's in the description below. If you want to buy my mix, DM me on my Facebook page, Orchid History Project, and you can purchase it. If you're in Brisbane, you know, come pick it up from me, or I can meet you at a orchid show. So this basically grows really well. Very easy. I just, you know, pot it up in my mix, stuff it inside the shade house, and fertilize whenever with my other stuff. So there is no special care needed. It's just very straightforward. And I bought this last year, maybe June. I'll check when I purchased this. I purchased this off Marketplace. If I remember, I'll put the date here. And so after that, it just grew. And now it is the month of March. So it started initiating a flower spike sometime in February. So basically it follows the Dendrobium bigibbum flowering season here in Brisbane, which is pretty much March. It does initiate spike in February. So yeah, I don't do anything special with this, nothing. So very, very easy. I hope to actually clone this, maybe send this overseas to whoever, wherever. You know, this is, I think, as good as the Dendrobium Inobi Purple. If I do get a variegated one, that would be exciting. Okay. So thank you very much for watching. If you have seen so far, give it a thumbs up. Thank you for staying to the end of the video. And if you have any comments, questions, things you want me to talk about, discuss about, put in the comments below. Alright, so thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. Okay, I'm Hendrika, signing out for now. Bye!